So we're kicking off a new series this week, starting to talk about a few of the values here around Grace Church, kind of what makes us do the things that we would do. And we want to highlight just a couple of these over the next couple weeks. I get the privilege here of talking to you about kids and students this weekend. And here's what I don't want you to do right away. Some of you are like, all right, let's maybe we can get to lunch a little early here. You're just going to talk about Sunday school class or something. I'm like, here's what I want. Nobody can check out right now because this actually involves everyone. And what I want to do is just talk to us a little bit about this value and why we do things the way we do things at Grace. And I actually want to tell you why you are a part of this, whether you know it or not. It's something that we're all a part of. And so one of the things that makes us who we are here at Grace is one of our values being fully committed to kids and students. And one of the unique things about me is that over the last 10 to 12 years here at Grace, that is what I have primarily invested my time in. So I've got the unique privilege of working alongside of staff in those areas, helping create some of that and really moving this value along. So I've worked really closely with this one, and it has been one of the best times of my life here working with these. Not that I'm the expert on it by any means, but I've been able to work really closely as we build some of this together. And here's some of the things that we do at Grace because of this value that maybe you've noticed or not. You will see us devote a lot of resources and a lot of energy to kids and students. So if you've been around for a while, you've seen this show up in our facilities. The first area that we completed in our facilities with the most awesome things was the kids area, right? We got that up to speed. It's really awesome back there. If you have kids or you volunteer back there, you've seen it. And it is, Hannah did an amazing job creating that with her team, and we put a lot of resources into that. We also filled it up. So you notice that recently we have devoted even more resources to the kids by building, I think, 4 more classrooms downstairs that we're getting ready to open up because we're investing in that pretty heavily. You've probably seen this even in the student ministries world. We gave them one of the best parts of our building, which is an entire gymnasium over there, and we're getting ready to take some more look at that. But you will see us invest that. You see us invest in our budget. You would see some light items for TVs. We will break a few of those, and I have personally broken several of those, and I won't tell you how many, but we devote on purpose resources to nice things for kids and students. Not because we want to break them, but because we know in order to create environments where kids want to be, we got to put some dollars forth for nerd clusters, for soda, for snacks, for pizza, all of those things that we need so that we get the opportunity and the privilege to have relationship with them and tell them about the person of Jesus. You've probably also seen a lot of energy go into that. Some of our first staff members that we hire are a part of those, right? Our first full-time staff members were student ministries and for Power Kids back there. So all of that going in, building, staff, repairs, things that we do. And one of the other things that you'll notice about us is that we see the calling given to parents in the Bible for how they're to raise their kids, what God asks us all to do, and we take that very seriously as well. You've seen maybe parent-child dedications, maybe you've walked through that class with me, but we look at that and say we're not intending to do that for parents. We couldn't. We are not looking to do that instead of parents because we couldn't. What we're doing is looking and saying that is a really intense calling that the Lord has given parents. As the church, could we invest and come alongside them so that a parent can do only the job that a parent can do, and we can make that maybe as easy as possible. And really how we would look at it is we want to fill in as many gaps as we can. We know that every family is different. We know that every story is different, the makeups of family, how they've come together, adoption and foster care, all the things that are involved in that. And we see, can we fill in the gaps to support parents, to help them, to give them resources, or even create environments where we can be a unified voice in the way that they are trying to lead their kids. So when we do all of these things, you've probably seen it around, and we see this in Deuteronomy where the Lord says this to parents. These commandments that I give you today are to be on your hearts. Impress them on your children. Talk about them when you sit at home, when you walk along the road, and when you lie down and when you get up. So we see this and we say, man, the Lord is asking parents to do this. And as the church, we want to come alongside and say, he didn't ask the church to do it. He asked parents to do it. And so our role is to come alongside parents and say, how can we help you do what the Lord has asked you to do? Much the same way that we approach a lot of areas of faith with everyone here at our church, we can't make decisions for you. We can't make you follow Jesus. We can't fix everything in your life, but we say, how can we come alongside you as you do what the Lord is asking you to do? So we see this show up here, and if you look around, you probably notice that it is, or if you are a parent, that it can be hard to parent. I can see all the parents in the room. They look more tired than everyone else, right? You can probably see me. I look tired because I thought we had my daughter sleeping through the night, and then she learned to climb out of her crib. So that was fun. She just shows up places now. I'm like, oh, and she's like, I got out. I'm like, you sure did, and it scared me a lot. But I'm strong, and I'm not going to cry. So sometimes I don't sleep as much as I would like to. But we know that parenting can be hard. We know that help is needed. We know that following Jesus can be difficult. And so like in many areas, we want to come alongside people and help to fill in some of the gaps. One of the things that showed me this recently, even just looking at the world around us, if you spend any time in our culture, you see that the next generation is kind of an interesting topic. You might hear some people say, this generation, those kids these days, and then some people are like, well, they tell us to go outside, and then they yell at us when we do stuff. And right, it's like this banter back and forth. And here's what I was actually talking to a friend of mine. I've known him for years. He goes to Grace. He actually works in the police department at Akron. He was starting as a police officer right when I started as a pastor. And so we've kind of had this and we both played drums at Grace for a little bit. So we had this parallel track. I was talking with him kind of about things happening around. And I said, what do you think we should do? And I was like, how do we figure this out? And he said this thing that stuck with me for a while. He said, I actually believe that one generation of exceptional parenting could change many, many things in this world. And I said, I think I agree with you on that. But we know it's hard. We see that it's hard, right? We've experienced that it's hard. But here at Grace, one of the reasons we're doing that is we're saying that we know that. And we want to put forth our best for our kids and students because we want to give them the best opportunity that we can to follow Jesus. With all these things that we see there and all of those things we do, some of you might even still be saying, why would we do all that though? Why are you doing all that stuff, right? Why are we using the building we give the building to kids for events and all this stuff? Well, the reason we would do it is, I think you would agree with me from what we just said, is this: there is a massive opportunity to reach the world for Jesus through the next generation. There's massive opportunity, right? We see that sometimes it's hard to parent. We see sometimes that there aren't parents involved. We see sometimes that people don't know what to do. There is massive opportunity. One way to look at it is to say that it's a lost cause. Start over the next generation. We'll figure it. We'll try something new. We'll just give up on this one. Or there's the opportunity to look and say, wow, there is so much opportunity for us to invest in this because the need is everywhere. And God has given us everything we need to do that. The truth is this: when we look at the next generation, it's not will we impact the next generation, right? You're not going to accidentally influence a generation. The reality for us as the church and as people in the world is we will influence the next generation. The question is actually, what kinds of impact do we want to have? What kind of things do we want to give the next generation? What kind of things do we want them to hear? How do we want to set them up? Right? We're going to impact the next generation. But what kind of impact do we want to have? I love this verse in the book of Proverbs in a Bible. And by the way, if you don't have a Bible, there's some under the seats there in front of you. We'd love for you to have that. If you don't have one at home, you can take it. In Proverbs 22, it says this when it's talking about children and the next generation. I love this. It says, start children off the way they should go, and even when they are old, they will not turn from it. This is the whole reason why we would invest energy, resources, time in some of our best leaders and our best teachers and our students and kids. Because what we're doing is we're actually trying to set them in the right direction. Right? We cannot make them make a decision. We can't even make kids behave, especially toddlers who have an agenda, right? You're not changing that. What we can do is, can we give them the best opportunity? Can we point them in the best direction to give them the best shot at hearing the story of Jesus and having their lives changed? And if we do that when they're young, if we invest in the generations, they will not forget it. I was thinking about this the other day, and here's something I think every single person in this room can identify with. You might not know everything about parenting. You might not know everything about being a kid if you're a kid, but here's what you do know. Here's what every single one of us knows for sure. We know exactly what we had when we were young, and we know what we didn't have when we were young. We all remember that. And we all make decisions based off that. We all have disappointment because of it. We have excitement because of it. We all know what we got and what we didn't. So as we think about pointing a generation in a direction, that's what we want to do. And this became personal for me at a very young age, right? I remember growing up in the church, and my parents brought me there, and I was learning and trying to grow in my faith, and I started to play the drums. That was the thing I was really, really interested in. I started doing that, and I was in a metal band with my friends, so the most obvious choice. And we were not very good, but I was playing a lot of drums, and I knew that's the thing I was good at. And I was like, I want to do this. And I noticed that they were playing drums on stage. It was the 90s, so it was an electric drum set. And I was like, I want to do that. And there was no path for me to be able to do that. There was no way I remember being so excited. I found the drummer after service that was on stage, and I was like, how do I get involved with this? I have to be up there. And he was kind of like, I forget exactly what happened, but basically what happened is I taught myself to play drums. I just memorized music. I didn't know how to read drum charts, and they were kind of like, anyways, you're kind of young, so like we probably don't let that happen. We probably don't do that. And I was like, well, that kind of sucks. And I kind of gave up on it, right? I even asked my parents to try to help me. We couldn't make any headway, and I don't know all of the reasons. They probably knew how I behaved outside of church. That probably factored into it. But anyways, what I heard was no. What I heard was, we're not interested. There was no path for me. So I remember being around my town, and I actually met a guy who was going to plant a church. And I don't even remember exactly how we met. I think I was looking for a place to get involved, really. And he was like, I need some people. We're starting some teams, like worship, and we're going to start music. I was like, I know some musicians. I'm a musician. Here's what happened. He didn't just say, why don't you come volunteer for the rest of your life, right? He thought, how can I invest in you? He said, that would be great. Would you guys want to help us do that? Guys, for every weekend for several years, I packed my entire drum set. If you have ever taken apart a drum set, it is not a good time. All right, I'm just telling you. I put it in my little hatchback. I literally measured this car when I bought it to make sure my bass drum would fit in it. That's how committed I was at the time. I was like, it's got to fit in there. And I don't even know how to read a tape measure, but it worked out. And I got it in there, and every single week, I tore my entire drum kit down, put it in my car, took it, played for church, tore it down, put it back in my car, took it home every single week. And here's what happened over that time. Why would I do that? Why did my friends do that? Because someone believed in us. Someone gave us an opportunity. And they didn't just have me play drums all the time. They invested in my life. They taught me how to lead worship. Hey, could you be a little less angry up there? I'm like, sure thing. We could probably arrange that. Hey, that's a little metal. Could you tone it down? Maybe we don't need a double bass pedal for worship. I was like, or maybe we do. I don't know. Right? They worked with me. They didn't just correct me all the time. They gave me vision. They helped me. And guys, this went on for years. These two men, Tim and Chris, invested in my life in powerful ways. As I was dating my wife, we got engaged. They loved me enough to say hard things to me because they earned the credit to be able to do it by investing in my life. They let me preach my very first sermon at this church. It was bad. I'm just going to tell you, it was really bad. I'm really glad it wasn't on video. Right? They let me all the way through figuring out what the Lord was doing with my life in the future. They walked with me. They loved me enough to let me fail. And I'm sure that they spent some dollars on at least food, maybe repairs, right? They invested in me in a way that made me believe in myself, that made me feel like this was possible. And here's where this led to this long story of me getting there. When I finally came into ministry, one of my first jobs at Grace Church was to start a youth band. That was the task that I was given. There was some kids that wanted to play music, and myself and some other leaders, we built up that team. We were leading for high school and middle school worship, and they started to play even on the weekends. The pastors there were investing. They were giving the young kids opportunities to play. And here's why this is really awesome. Several of those students are pastors at our different campuses in worship. Many of them are just volunteers that are still investing in the church in the next generation. I went to Momentum Youth Conference, our high school conference this year, and there was a band there from Bath leading about 2,800 kids in worship, and all but one of them were former youth band students of mine. And here's why this is powerful, because they all existed before someone got there, but what made that make sense was the value of investing and being fully committed to students and kids. So that when I showed up on the scene as a 23-year-old, they're like, we need to get this going. We need opportunity for these young people because they're ready right now to do something. And we broke a lot of things. And we did some stuff, but it was worth it. This is the kind of impact that we want to have as a church, why this value is so important to us. And I imagine if you think about your life, the type of impact that you would want to have in your family in the next generation is to be known as people who have voices who believe in young people. I don't disparage them. I talk well of them. I encourage them. I'm giving them vision for life. I'm giving them wisdom. I'm coming alongside of them in relationship. I'm caring about what goes on in their life. We're giving presence that is personal. I'm not just showing up to keep them behaved or to tell them what to do or to enforce some rules. I'm showing up to care about what's in their life. And kids know the difference. I'm showing up to say, I actually care about that hard thing in your life. I'm not just like, wait till you get older. Yeah, that doesn't really help anyone, for one. And second of all, it matters right now to them. So it should matter to you and I. Right, to have adults who care about that so that we have the opportunity and the privilege to earn relationship, to come alongside people so that when their hearts are moved as kids and students, we're there to be able to walk with them through whatever God is doing in their life. That's not just something that you bus a bunch of young people in and then you're like, all right, we'll do it now. It's consistent work over time of what I just described to you. Of investing the dollars, of investing the time, investing in the next generation in a way that we would want to give them something. Because here's what we actually want from kids and students that come through Power Kids and move through student ministries. We talk a lot in high school about faith skills. After they've spent time in Power Kids learning about Jesus, learning about the fact that he loves them, that he made them. They come into student ministries and they get to learn how to follow Jesus if that's something they want to do. They learn that they can ask any question at church about following Jesus because where else would you do it? Where else would you get those answers? They learn that you should know how to go to church yourself. You should know what you believe. You should ask that question about your own faith and what your parents. You should discover all of that stuff. And along the way, we'll walk beside them because we want every student and kid to have everything they need to know Jesus the best that they can, if that's the decision that they want to make. No matter how long it takes. I'll never forget one of the things in student ministries that still to this day, after 12 years of doing it, that always gets me. Kids move through and parents do a great job, and sometimes it just takes multiple voices saying the same thing. Many times I'll talk to parents and I'll be like, they're like, what did you say? Because they came home and they're all like, they'd say this to some of our volunteers and I'm like, well, I said this. And they're like, I say that. I've been saying that for years. And you say it and now it's awesome. I'm like, I don't know what to tell you. I guess I don't have to discipline them. So that's probably has something to do with it. But unified voices moving in that direction. One of my favorite parts of coming alongside students and young people is to help them understand the identity that Jesus died to give them. Many adults walk around this way, but kids especially, they will walk in to their life with an identity that is not one that Jesus wanted to give them. Because they're struggling. They're making bad choices like I did all the time as a kid. They're blowing stuff up in their life. They're having relationships for the first time. They're doing everything for the first time, and usually they're doing it wrong, right? Let's just be real. I broke a lot of stuff as a young person. I made like a couple good choices. The rest of them were total experiments that blew up right in my face. And that can become your identity. For me, that became a thing for me that I can't do anything right. Right? That can creep in. But to have the opportunity to come along young people and say, listen, you are not a bad kid. You made a really bad choice. You need a new strategy for that area of your life. Right? Suddenly this becomes something that's workable. It's not part of who they are. And as we aim to do that, we look and say, what does God say about who we are? Yes, we have some things wrong with us. It's called sin. We make decisions that are sinful. We are sinful. But Jesus died so that does not have to be our identity. As humans, we forget that so much. We get hung up on the mistake that we made and we become our decisions, or we become our experience, or we become the thing that has happened to us, and we're limited by it. One of the things I love about student ministries at Grace and the way that we've invested over the years and the way that my leaders operate, by the way, my leaders and the people that work with me always make me look really good. because they're the ones sitting with students through the hardest moments of their life, hearing about it, hearing about what God is doing, and they get to sit with them and remind them of who they are, and remind them that as you search and find out if Jesus is for you, we already love you. We want to help you answer that question, and we want to give you everything you need to do that. Right? Showing up in that life is a big deal. Because here's one thing that we would believe as well, is that we see kids not just as the future of the church, but the church right now. When we operate this way and not just say that we're going to invest in kids and students, when we do it, they start doing things. They put all that energy. Like, I found out that someone would let me play drums at church. I'm like, every weekend, baby, for the rest of my life. I don't even have anything going on. Every weekend I'm here because it's something I'm passionate about. Later, I became passionate about sharing Jesus with my friends. I've watched it happen at this campus. People who become passionate about reaching their friends, and they're not like, hey, is that something we'd be allowed to do? They're like, hey, can we use the building? We're like, yes. Get the students here. Get your friends here. We want them to hear about Jesus. We're not saying, here's the way we're going to do it, and if you fit into that mold, that's great. We're like, how do you think we should reach your friends? They don't really want to hear from me. I'm pretty sure, right? They don't want to listen to me, who they barely know. They want to hear from their peers who have had their lives changed by Jesus. So we look to empower students to help give them the keys to what we have. Like, we'll hang around, right? The student thing that happened in the building again recently, the response, the way that I've participated in that, I lead from afar. I help them with whatever they need. The majority of my work, they're like, hey, we actually have the event planned. I was like, cool, what do you need? They're like, could you get us Chipotle to eat? And I was like, we sure can do that. We can make sure you eat. If it only costs me $130 of Chipotle for 150 kids to hear about Jesus, I'm in on that. That is a great return. Right? We want to empower kids to reach the students and the people around them that God has put in their life. Man, over the years at Grace Church and the commitment to this value, what I've seen is students in the church sharing the gospel with their friends. One of my students from that youth band, he's the only believer in his family when he started at Grace. And the day he showed up to church for the first time, I told him to come back for a tryout for guitar, and then I forgot about it, so he showed up and I wasn't there. He still came back somehow, got involved. His family knows Jesus now. He works at our Norton campus. He's a pastor there, right? Just empowering young people. It's not that we're doing it perfectly. I forgot to show up to the guy's tryout, right? But we see students doing this. They're changing the next generation now. They're investing in the next generation. They're worshiping. They're following Jesus. We see kids baptizing their peers. They are the hands and feet of the church. And what they lack in maybe resources and experience, they make up for in creativity, in energy, and passion for reaching those around them. So the question becomes this: when we're talking about this, you're like, all right, Aaron, well, you've convinced me this is a good idea, maybe you already knew that. You're like, what do we do now? How do we become a part of this? Because you're like, Aaron, just in general, kids annoy me a lot, so like, I don't know if I want to be around them that much. I'm like, I get that. There's other ways. Let me talk about this, because I think that it's not just, this is not me saying you should just fill our volunteer spots. That is the worst possible way you could do this. We do have volunteer spots. But what we want are people who are passionate and have asked the question, what is my role in investing in the next generation? So how do we do that? Look at Psalm 78 here, 2-7. It says this. I love this. It kind of describes to us how we can do this. It says this: I will open my mouth with a parable. I will utter hidden things from of old, things we have heard and known, things our ancestors have told us. We will not hide from their descendants. We will tell the next generation of the praiseworthy deeds of the Lord, his power and the wonders he has done. He decreed statutes for Jacob and established the law in Israel, which he commanded our ancestors to teach their children, so the next generation would know them, and even the children yet to be born, and they in turn would tell their children. Then they would put their trust in God and would not forget his deeds, but would keep his commands. This is it right here. When you think about what is my part to play, when we want to tell the next generation about how Jesus has changed our life. Whether you're just beginning that, if you're considering it, or if you're sitting in a spot, you're like, I don't even know what I would say. I'm like, you should figure that out. If you are a follower of Jesus, it's not something special. You don't have to be the coolest volunteer ever. Honestly, that's not usually the most popular volunteers. You're like, hey, I love high school. I never left it. And we're like, okay, maybe not that one. right? We don't need people that come in that are like, these kids gotta know this thing. And you're like, nope. Would you be willing to earn relationship with students so that you have permission to speak into their life? Would you earn relationship with young people and kids and their parents so that when they need something, they know that they can come to you? Would you talk so much about what God has done in your life that they remember it, that they know the praiseworthy deeds of the Lord, that they're going to tell their children about them? Right? Would you invest that way? Here's a thing that's true. Generations impact generations. It is a fact. This is not like maybe they will. We know that. Why? Because children remember, they know what happens in their life. Kids always do math. Kids always know who we are as parents. It doesn't matter what we said, they know who we are and what we did. They know whether we backed up what we said. Maybe we said church was important, that God changed my life, but did we ever show them how Jesus changed our life? Remember that passage talks about showing the praiseworthy deeds of the Lord, how he's impacted their life, telling their children, because your children will tell their children about the impact you had on them. Right? Generations change generations. Why do we know that? Because many of us are sitting here living in generational pain. Many of us are sitting here as a product of generational abuse, addiction, you name it. Generations impact generations. And what I love about our people here at Grace is some of you, and many of you have said, I've had enough. It actually stops at this generation, because I'll be telling my kids about the praiseworthy deeds of the Lord and how he changed my life. What you do today, what you've done in the past year, if you're just now following Jesus, what you have done, the choice you have made to say enough, or I will change this, I will break a cycle, I will choose a different path. Whether you feel strong enough to do it or not, the Lord is with you in that, but the generational impact will happen. You may not be alive to see it. You won't do it perfectly for sure, but it does matter what you choose today. It does matter that you say, we're not going to live like that in our family anymore. We're going to change this. We're going to do this differently. I'm going to deal with my worst so that I don't hurt the best. The generations will impact generations. And instead of the pain and the grief and the wreckage of generation to generation that some of us have experienced and been a product of, we can change things with the help of the Lord, so that the generations beyond us start to say, we have generational life change in following Jesus. I've seen this in my own family. Just 2 generations from my mom's parents were products of alcoholic, abusive homes. My grandparents said, we've had enough of that. We're not going to do anymore. They chose to follow Jesus, and they did the best that they could. And 3 generations later, neither one of them are alive to see it. But my kids know Jesus. Their grandkids are following Jesus. Right? Their choice has expanded. Generations will impact generations. The choices that you make in your personal relationship with Jesus matter, because they will impact. In choosing to say, Lord, what you want to do with my life as you come alongside me. Lord, if you start, the best thing you can do is chase after Jesus as fast as you can right now personally for the next generations, because whatever progress you make, and you talk about that to your kids, that will transfer, and they will get a head start in the next generation. What my grandparents actually did for me was save me from a lot of pain. I got a really big head start because my parents were following Jesus the best that they could. I got a really big head start. Did I have a childhood that was perfect? Absolutely not. But I had a really big head start, and I didn't forget what people told me about Jesus. And people invested in my life enough to care about me. So as we think about what to do here in this fall, as we're kind of all coming together, things are launching, things are taking off, it's actually, there's a big picture that seems really hard. You're like, Aaron, you're talking about something I don't even know. Start small. Here's what you and I can do today. If you're sitting in this room and you're hearing this, the first thing that you need to do is figure out where you are with Jesus. If you're here investigating that, you need to know that we want to answer those questions. We want to help you arrive at a place where you feel comfortable making a decision around the person of Jesus. We know that that's a journey. We know that it's a process. Once you start to follow Jesus, what you can do is start to let him change your life. Showing up here in community is great. Getting your kids around, bringing your family around, starting to learn what does it mean to be a follower of Jesus every day. That's where you start. Do this in your own families. If you're like, Aaron, this is the first I'm hearing that the Bible actually says I should do things as a parent. Like, I know I had to do some things. Like, that's a lot. I'm like, start there. Go to the child dedication class. Make a public statement that our family is going to pursue Jesus. We're going to do the best thing that we can so that our church can see that we want our kids to be invested in. We're saying we want to do this, and we would love the church to help us with that. I would say take advantage of the things that we can help with. Besides the child dedication class, let us watch your kids so that you can come work on your life, and they can hear about how much Jesus loves them and start to be taught about who he is. Right? Do that work here. Take advantage of that. If you have high schoolers and middle schoolers, we have stuff for them. We have stuff for young adults. Right? We've seen the impact there. The other thing you can do is actually start to invest in the next generation. If you're following Jesus for a while and you feel good about that, is to start to think about, what is my part to play? Some of you should serve in kids ministry, Power Kids, or student ministry. Some of you should serve with young adults. I'm not saying everyone should do it, but if you should go investigate that. You should let us know so we can point you in the right direction. If you're not sure, please talk to us. We'd love to help you figure that out. If you have resources and time to give them, we would love to connect you with that. You can be, one of the most rewarding parts about serving under this value is seeing kids grow up into adults who are following Jesus. And what a blessing it is. You can serve, you can pray for our church. We have young people here all the time. I think last I looked at it in some of our attendance, there were like over 300 kids, students, and young adults here in a week. You can pray for all of them. We could probably get you a list of names if you want. Like, we would love for you to pray for them. They were at camp this summer. Some of them made decisions to follow Jesus for the first time, to invest in that. All of that's going on. One of the other things we can do is change the way that we think and talk about the next generation. Think about the last time you've seen something, or maybe you've been the recipient of a kid's bad decision, or the younger generation's decisions. Right? What's your instinct? What's your heart there behind it when you talk about the next generation? Do you see it as opportunity, or do you see it as something in your way, or is it annoying to you? Like, sometimes I have to think about, Lord, would you help heal my mind for the way that I think about people? And if that's you with the younger generation, I mean, the Bible says it. We're going to be transformed by the renewing of our mind. God's going to have to help us with that. We have thoughts we shouldn't have. But if the Lord can begin to change how you think about young people, he could show you how to invest in them and start to think that way. You know, we're getting ready here in the next year to plant a new campus out of Akron East, which is phenomenal. There's going to be people who go to that. There will be opportunity everywhere here to backfill some of the people who are going to be going there to teach Power Kids, right? Hannah's going to need you. River's going to need you, because if you didn't know, our staff members aren't that great. It's all the volunteers that work with us as a team. River does a phenomenal job. Hannah does a phenomenal job, but it is the people of Grace Church who make our job easy. It is the people who show up and stay late and clean up trash. And by the way, if you are one of the people who serve with the younger generation right now, thank you. Because I see how hard you work. I see the late times that we're there because we're cleaning up trash and all that stuff. And you guys work hard. And it matters. And you need to know that we see it and that it is paying off already. If you're a kid or a student in this room, I would say take advantage of this and get involved, whether you're in student ministries in high school or if you're in college age, to check out some of these things, because there's a community here that would love to just walk with you through whatever you're walking through in life. There are adults who would love to share wisdom if you want it. They'd love to just hear about your day if you need someone to talk to. And they would love to try to help you think and look in the right direction if you're trying to make decisions. We would love for you to be a part of one of those communities as you do that. And you need to know that there are people here who are going to believe in you, who are going to love you, and want to be supportive of you in whatever you're doing in your life as you pursue Jesus. And sometimes they might be guiding you. Sometimes they might be correcting you, all that stuff. But if you would open yourself up to that community, asking your questions, being a part of it, that would go far in your life. Because here's the truth is we are determined to keep telling the next generation of God, his power and the things that he's done. We're going to do it because it's what God asked us to do, and it's the way that we keep this snowball rolling. It picks up speed because if you haven't noticed, when you pick up young people, you pick up their families. Because as a parent, what do you think? When something starts making my kid act differently, first, suspicious. You're like, that's not what's happening here. Somebody promised you ice cream or something? And then second, we see, man, this has really changed you, and I want to know more about what's going well there. And what we are partners in the home. We're not ever talking bad about parents. We're with you in raising your kids, and we want to be supportive in that. So would you join us as we continue to pursue and invest in the next generation? And you need to know that every time you serve, every time you give, every time you're praying, every time you're a part of what we're doing, you are impacting the next generation. And if you would like to take that deeper, if you'd like to take a next step in investing in that, please talk to us. We would love to tell you about some of the opportunity that's happening here and around the campus. Let me pray for us. The band's going to give us some space to process this. I'd love you to just ask the Lord what your part is in this. Let me pray for us. Lord, thank you so much for all you're doing. Lord, thank you that as we walk into places around our community, walk into higher middle school, into Ellett High School, Lord, as we see kids here in the room on Wednesdays and Thursdays and the weekend, and God, throughout the week at different events happening, Lord, thank you for the vibrancy and the life that we see, Lord. Kids and students who, Lord, are created in your image, who you have created for magnificent things. God, what a privilege it is as people who have experience and resources to sit back and see a generation so intent on reaching their friends for the person of Jesus. Lord, as a church, would you continue to give us passion for affecting the generation in ways that are helpful? God, not just being perfect, but demonstrating love, belief, God, presence in their lives, even exercising forgiveness and showing what that's right, what that's like, Lord, and just constant investment in young people. Lord, thank you for those who have gone before us, who have sacrificially given to make this possible. God, would you help empower us to continue that? Give us everything that we need. And Lord, for each person in this room, whether they're an adult trying to figure out what their part is, would you make that clear to them? God, if there's a student in this room or a young adult or a kid who doesn't feel believed in, God, would you open them up to being a part of a community who could give them and fill that need, Lord, because of your grace, your love, and your mercy. Lord, thanks for walking with us. Thank you for investing in us. Lord, thank you for those who have invested in us as we were young and all the work that got us to this point. We love you, Lord. Help us to be faithful to this. Help us to keep going and pursuing those younger than us. We love you, Lord. We're thankful for all you do in our life.